But at the end of the day, not only is the United States of America our largest trading partner, north and south, they're our most trusted and important ally as fellow North Americans. And so our goal isn't to sell those products somewhere else. Our goal is to continue with the relationship with the United States because, quite honestly, that oil is coming to U.S. refineries, and it's creating jobs in places like Ohio, Iowa, Illinois, down into Louisiana and Texas. We sell crude oil, potash, uranium, agri-food products, and our goal is always to create that continental energy and food security from our province's perspective.
Premier Scott Moe is back from Washington, D.C., where he met with U.S. officials to talk tariffs, trade, and protecting Saskatchewan jobs. Moe says $40 billion in imports and exports cross the border every year, mentioning how tariff-free trade is critical given that the U.S. is their largest trading partner.
The left in Canada has just pushed Saskatchewan closer than ever to the United States. And honestly, I don't think they even realize what they've done. Something happened this week that tells you everything about where this country is headed and why the West, especially Saskatchewan and Alberta, are starting to look south for partnerships instead of the rest of Canada. But before we get there, we need to talk about the mood in this country and how a single decision exposed a lot more than most Canadians expected. Because you can feel it, right? There's a widening gap, not just politically, not just culturally, but in how provinces treat development, investment, and the people who actually build things. And that gap is turning into a full-blown divide. On one side, you've got provinces begging for growth, fighting for jobs, trying to move resources responsibly and efficiently. And on the other side, well, you've got governments more focused on virtue signaling than real-world economics. Governments that would rather block projects than approve them. Governments that think every industry is guilty until proven green.
Well, Nutrien has identified a site for a potential new ocean terminal in the Washinton, and the announcement is drawing concern here in Canada, with critics asking why the new development is not being built in Vancouver. The potash company says it plans to expand its West Coast capacity by building a new export facility at Washington's Port of Longview, creating additional deep water access in the Pacific Northwest. The Saskatchewan NDP is asking Premier Scott Moe to advocate for the project be built in Canada by speaking with BC's current BC Premier.
See much investment being targeted for the west coast of our continent, Mr. Speaker. And then we see an ND Premier stand up, Mr. Speaker. That Premier says, we don't want oil in this port, Mr. Speaker, because you can't get a boat into it. And then that same NDP policymaking Premier, Mr. Speaker, questions why another industry isn't making that very investment in our nation.
And that's where this story really begins. For months now, British Columbia's Premier, David Eby, has been taking shots at Alberta and Saskatchewan, from their pipelines to their energy industries to their economic strategies. Just recently, he threw a fit over Alberta and Saskatchewan being consulted in the Ottawa-Alberta Memorandum of Understanding about pipelines and energy corridors. He genuinely seemed offended that two provinces who actually produce energy dared to be included in a conversation without his permission. The man practically acted like the West belonged to him. And that reaction, that insecurity, actually sets the stage for what happened next. Because while Eby was busy scolding everyone else about how they should run their provinces, a major Saskatchewan-based company was making a decision, a big one. And he was watching everything very closely. It was watching how British Columbia treats development. It was watching how the province handles investment. And it was watching how its premier talks about the industries that keep Western Canada alive.
Instead of Premier Scott Moe calling me up, engaging with me about this huge billion-dollar decision about whether to ship potash out of British Columbia or out of Washington State, he was engaging with Danielle Smith on this non-existent pipeline project. I didn't hear from the federal government about the Nutrien decision. I had no idea that there was even a prospect that this company would consider putting themselves in the hands of Donald Trump to have tariffs or ban of potash being shipped out of Washington State. And they made the decision, apparently, to ship out of Washington State instead of out of British Columbia.
Well, my reaction is when someone makes a decision not to invest in your area, you should have a look in the mirror, not start to blame others. And he feels that he can pick and choose which projects are going to, land in the Canadian West Coast ports, and that just simply isn't the way. And so, what is he doing to attract these types of investments to the West Coast? Because everything we've heard the last week or 10 days or 2 years hasn't been in any way, positive for an investment like this to land.
And then the shoe dropped. A Saskatchewan company, one of the biggest players in the entire potash, fertilizer, agricultural sector, had the chance to put a massive project in British Columbia or take that investment somewhere else. This was a moment where BC could have stepped up, could have made itself more competitive, could have shown it still has room for industry, for jobs, for growth. But instead, they proved exactly why companies are looking elsewhere. And that's when Americans stepped in. Washington State, to be exact, with fewer regulatory headaches, lower cost, faster timelines, and a government that actually wants investment, quietly became the smarter, safer, more stable option. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The moment Saskatchewan made its move, Premier David Eby exploded. Suddenly, he wasn't lecturing anymore. He was panicking, complaining, blaming, acting shocked that someone didn't want to deal with his government's anti-business, anti-energy woke policies. And who stepped up in response? Premier Scott Moe, calm, direct, and honestly kind of fed up with British Columbia's theatrics. Moe basically said what everyone else was thinking. If you want companies to invest in your province, maybe stop treating them like the villains.
Blame being hurled over a massive lost opportunity for British Columbia. A giant potash company based in Saskatchewan is planning to build a $1 billion export terminal, but it's not happening in Canada. It's not happening in BC. It's happening in the United States. And there were pointed words between the premiers of the two provinces, Saskatchewan and BC. Well, BC's opposition Conservatives are slamming the government of David Eby and the NDP for what happened. CTV's Robert Buffum has more.
This is being blocked.
Saskatchewan potash was a priority during question period in the BC legislature.
Nutrien just chose Washington State for over $1 billion project, driven out of this province, walking away for an opportunity for people in this province to prosper.
The opposition hammering the government over revelations a major Saskatchewan potash company was planning to build a massive terminal near Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, BC. News that also rankled the premier.
It is unacceptable. It is deeply disturbing and problematic that Nutrien decided to go to Washington State instead of coming to British Columbia.
Thank you for watching. If you support these videos, subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss an update from PJ. Special thanks to each and every channel member for your support and for making these reports possible. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.